Now, we just had a report from the State Department saying that don't worry, there's no environmental concerns, no major concerns about the TransCanada project, the Keystone XL pipeline that's going to start in Canada and go through the U.S. Now, CBC News did a terrific report showing that there was this giant explosion and a giant spill back in 2009 that was covered up by the Canadian government. Oops, we just find out about it after the State Department issued their report. By the way, it's not really the State Department's report. They outsourced it to private contractors who have business with TransCanada. Okay, so now let's talk about the real safety issues around TransCanada. CBC News explains the pipeline had an uncommon problem, a bacteria that caused particularly aggressive growth rates of corrosion. The Alberta pipeline's rupture rate is 5 times higher than Canada's national rupture rate, repeated in a 2004 study. So understand what's happening there. Because of the way that the tar sands are, the corrosion of the pipes is 5 times worse than it would be through normal oil pipelines. Oh, golly gee, we just found out about that. Even though they said the environmental impact would be insignificant. Interesting. Well, then we go to a different news story, and this is about the National Academy of Sciences here in the United States and their conclusions. They say actual levels of polycyclic aromatic, which sounds lovely, hydrocarbon emissions into the air may be 2 to 3 times higher than estimated, said the findings in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a peer-reviewed U.S. journal. So why? They explain. The industry estimates were way lower than the actual measurements, apparently because they did not include any escape of PAHs from tailing ponds, which are engineered dike and dam systems built near mining operations in the oil sands to collect the water, sand, clay, and residual oil left over from processing. Now let me ask you something. Do you think that they didn't know about that? That, oh look, that the residual stuff that we siphoned off into there, should we take that into account when we do our studies? Industry estimates. Well, it turns out the industry studied their own pollution, decided it wasn't that bad because they didn't count a huge part of it. Yeah, State Department was a great idea to send that out to private contractors who have contracts with TransCanada. Well played. Now, Frank Wania explains, if you use these officially reported emissions for the oil sands area, you get an emissions density that is lower than just about anywhere else in the world. Are you ready for this? This is really funny. According to the U.S. State Department and that study they just released, they say that the emissions from the tar sands in Canada are less than the emissions in Greenland, where they have almost no industry. They're not even trying hard. They're like, yeah, well, obviously we're corrupt. Let's just, yeah, oh yeah, it's better than Greenland. It's, you know what? Yeah, that's the ticket. It's less emissions than the Garden of Eden. Yeah, that's what it is. It's less emissions than the North Pole. Santa's mucking the place up with all those elves. All that toy production. Canada has predicted that oil sands development will bring in about $2 trillion over the next 2 decades. Could that be the reason why industry estimates have underestimated by 2 to 3 times what the actual emissions from this pipeline are going to be? What does Fox News say? We report, you decide. Those are the actual numbers. Okay. Unfortunately, of course, the reality is we don't decide at all. Our corrupt politicians decide, and it's a near guarantee that President Obama will approve this. The Canadian government wants it, the US government wants it, and emissions, pollution, corrosion, be damned. The citizens of those countries, be damned. They got to make money taking the oil out of Canada, shipping it through the US through the pipeline, and onto other countries. We get all of the pollution, all of the possible problems, but we don't actually get the oil. How do you like that Keystone oil pipeline now?